Well, we have a full house. It's time to get our lines wet as we venture into the unique estuaries and coastlines of the Sunshine State and demystify the silver and spotted beauty of a game fish known as trout.
So get your tackle box ready because it's time for the Florida Insider Fishing Report, which starts now.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back, everyone. We hope you had a fantastic Mother's Day weekend full of catching and time well spent with loved ones. Rick is back, and we have our first live studio audience of the season, including the Columbus High School Fishing Club, ready to catch some trout with us, right, Rick?
You're absolutely right, Brie. And you know, it's so good to be back, be here for the first live audience of the season. We also got some really cool news that I know you're going to share with everybody, so why don't you get right with it?
Absolutely. We have our friend and new sponsor from Front Runner Boats with us, and we're talking up National Safe Boating Week, so we've got some work ahead of us, but let's say hi to Dave Farrell at the workbench, the CCA workbench, that is. Dave, what are we talking about today?
If you like what you're doing, Bree.
Well, there you go. It's not work for you then.
We're talking about trout today on the rigs and techniques, and it's one of the first game fish that I really fell in love with, even before redfish. So
I didn't know
I really
that.
love the trout.
I'm learning something new every year.
You know what he does? He loves to catch a trout on a topwater lure.
Yes,
He'll throw all day long.
Well, I agree with that.
All right.
Topwater, anything is pretty good. All right, we've got some spawning going on in the Fish Bites East region, which means Captain Mike Holliday is putting us on some big and aggressive fish. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Brie, that's really the key for sea trout right now. They're spawning in May. We catch a lot of the largest fish of the year this time of year. You want to fish around the docks of the Indian River, around Walton Road, Savannah Road, up near the old fort, off of Bear Point. All those are good areas. This is also a good time to work the deeper potholes and the edges of the spoil islands, work them at dawn and dusk on those extreme low tides that we get on the new and full moon. The fish move into those deeper potholes when the tide gets really low, and sometimes it's just loaded with big trout. For school trout, you want to find patches of seagrass. So places like Middle Cove, JC Park, and the Moorings Flat are all good places to fish. You want to start your day throwing a drunk monkey or Houdini-colored saltwater sass and shad, or you can throw a topwater plug, fish them tight to the mangroves or tight to the docks. And then as the sun gets up, you want to switch over to a live shrimp or sand perch, put them under a saltwater sass and quick cork, or you can free line a live mullet or pilchard in those same areas. The average sea trout in my region is going to be 1 to 4 pounds, but fish to 9 pounds have been caught this week. I have a cool photo. A lot of times you find trout and snook in the same spots along the mangroves. There's a photo Captain Ed Zayak at Jensen Beach sent me. He led his anglers to a doubleheader of sea trout and snook on live pilchards. One guy reels in a trout, one guy reels in a snook. So while we're on that topic, let's talk about the other fish, which is snook. We're on the new moon. So the nighttime snook bite's been heating up at the Roosevelt Bridge in Stewart and around the Causeway in Jensen Beach. Most of the anglers are throwing R&R flare hawk jigs. They're throwing swimming plugs or live mullet. At the same time, there's also been a good daytime bite for big fish, mostly overslot fish up in Taylor Creek and Fort Pierce. And most of the anglers are either slow trolling live mullet or they're working the mouth of Taylor Creek at dawn with topwater plugs. Then all the inlets in my region are seeing a push of male fish along the shorelines and some bigger females outside the inlets along the beaches, just north or south of the inlets, let's say within 100 yards. Live pilchard, sand perch, and saltwater sass and green hornet-colored 4-inch sea shads have been the top baits there. Average snook in my region is going to be like 5 to 15 pounds, and but we're seeing fish up to like 25 pounds caught this week. I have a great snook photo. Dan Photos, he caught that nice snook in Stewart, and that fish ate a saltwater sass and Artemis shad.
That really is a beautiful photo, Mike. Let's talk about some offshore this week.
Yeah, the kingfish bite remains the most consistent action for blue water anglers, particularly in Palm Beach County, where there's fish spread along the reef in 90 to 120 feet of water, really from about Boynton Inlet to just north of Jupiter Inlet. At the same time, there's fish on the Loran Ledge off Hook Sound, the 6 Mile Reef, there's fish in the Junk Hole off Jensen, and the offshore bar south of Fort Pierce. What's nice is that there's not only been a lot of fish, but a good number of big fish in the mix. The big sardines are showing up as well, and they're by far the top bait for kings right now, although if you're after one of those smokers, a big blue runner, a small bluefish, or a goggle eye will draw that bite. You'll also can use mullet, threadfins, pilchards, goggle eyes. Put them out on a wire stinger rig, 40-pound monofilament Palm Beach rig. Either one will work. Average king is around 20 pounds. I got a photo from Jupiter. That's Real Love and Trevor Sites. They caught limits of kingfish off Jupiter with Captain Charlie Stew. Those fish ate Spanish sardines on triple hook Palm Beach rigs. And the other offshore thing we got, these common seas are allowing a lot of anglers to target black and gag grouper on the deeper reefs, and anywhere from 75 on out, to the 180-foot depth. The best action by far has been inside the closed area, the Oculina Bank off Fort Pierce, in 160 to 180 feet of water. But there's also been some good fish taken on the flat top reef and some of the larger artificial reefs in Martin and St. Lucie counties. The current's been smoking all week, so be sure to bring enough weight. It seems like 20 ounces right now is what it's taking to hold bottom in the deeper areas. Target the fish with 50, 80-pound tackle, 80-pound Florida carbon leader, and a 9-0 circle hook, baited with everything from a goggle eye to a live pinfish. Average grouper, 12 to 20 pounds. I got a grouper photo. That's Mike Long with a nice gag he caught in 150 feet of water off the St. Lucie power plant.
All right, one of your duties each week, Mike, is certainly to give us a bass report. So why don't you go ahead and give it to us, please?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the bite going on in Toho, but the big bass bite on the northwestern side of Lake Okeechobee has just been insane. I mean, they haven't seen it like this late in the year in a long time. The bites between Twin House Cove and Horse Island is producing crazy numbers of late season 6-pound plus bass. Everyone's fishing a very small area. The key is to post up, fan cast the area, then move 50 or 60 feet, fan cast it again. The dawn bite's starting to slow down a little bit, but you want to find clean water over good grass. Start your day throwing baby bass or a Florida gumbo colored Bass Assassin vapor shad, or a topwater frog, or a topwater plug without a prop on it. And then as the sun gets up, you want to look for the bluegill beds. Work those areas with a watermelon, red glitter, chartreuse tail. Big key is the chartreuse tail, so it looks like a bluegill. A tap-out worm or a turbo shad. Anything that looks like a bluegill. Cast to the potholes in the grass. Work the baits out. Pause it in any of the potholes. You're not going to catch a ton of fish, but the fish are going to average 3 to 5 pounds with lots of 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10-pounders. So, right now, Lake Okeechobee is really the hot and big fish spot in Florida.
All right, Bud, thank you so much. That was a great East Coast region hot spot. Let's take a look at the TNH spots. Inshore, he's saying triple tails on the channel markers between Jensen Beach Causeway and the South Bridge. Live shrimp under a quick cork is going to work. And then offshore, kingfish, dolphin, tunas, 90 to 150 feet of water. Off of Home Sound, slow troll sardines, pilchards, or maybe a ballyhoo, guys.
All right, next up is our Real Legend Central East region with Captain Jim Ross. Thanks for co-hosting with me last week, Jim. That was fun.
I had an absolute blast, Brie. And you know what? The Gator trout are here as well, just like in Mike's region. I'm going to kind of pick up where he left off. Our trophy trout are, true Gators right now. They're the biggest trout of the year. They're 25 inches and above. A lot of those fish are roaming the flats from the Real Legend Central East region this week, from, right around that Vero Beach where Mike stops, all the way up to Valkyria. Couple of hot spots that you're going to find these giant female fish feeding on mullet, small ladyfish, croakers, and large pilchards are around some of the spoil islands, and especially some of those undercut banks. And like Mike was talking about, you want to get tight to some of that structure because that's where those fish lay. And free lining these bait fish on a 4-aught or 5-aught size circle hook is the best way to fool those big trout. And I also like to use dark green colored braided line in that 15 to 20 pound range. And I attach this to a piece of 25-pound fluorocarbon leader because that is a whole lot less visible. And those big gator trout are smart, and you want them to stay well away. You want them to stay well away from anything that looks like it's going to, pick up on their radar. You definitely don't want them seeing what you're throwing at them. So if everything goes right and you're able to land one of these giants and photo and release it, make sure you do that because they produce thousands of eggs. And I've got a nice picture of one that we caught recently up in the Titusville area, actually. Got a little Cincinnati fan action going on there as well.
All right, looks good, dude. What else you got for us inshore?
Second species is snook, and I'm almost mirroring Mike's report from the East region. Our snook are firing off. It is amazing this week at the inlets, at the flats. Live shrimp, pogies, those are the two best baits to use right now, and big pilchers if you can get them in the river. Rig the shrimp on a 1/8 to 1/4 ounce Bass Assassin boot-off style jig head, and slowly swim it back to you about a foot off the bottom. For the pogies, you want to rig them on a knocker or a slide and sinker rig and fish them near jetties or, like I said, a lot of those mangroves and spoil islands. Our average snook this week, Rick, is running about 28 to 36 inches. My son Justin caught one yesterday that was 38, and the one here a couple of days ago that I've got a photo of, Don got this one with me, and that's a pretty nice size stud as well.
Boy, those
Nice.
are great fish. Way to go. All right, let's go offshore, Bub.
Let's do it. We got a mixed bag this week, Rick. It's primarily dolphin, but there's some wahoo and blackfin tuna mixed in as well. Now, all three species can be seen chasing some flying fish around a lot of the temperature breaks, the rips, the weed lines associated with the western edge of the Gulf Stream. The dolphin in particular seem to be fairly patternable, and one of the themes that every single offshore captain I talked to this week said was there seem to be small pockets of fish. Once you get a strike, work that area repeatedly, and you should continue to get more dolphin taking your baits. Now, naked and chin-weighted ballyhoo rigged on 60 to 80-pound mono leader seems to be working best. That's what the guys are getting their knockdowns on. And, of course, the tuna will hit that rig as well. Now, if you start, running into some wahoo, this rig is not the rig for you. You're going to want to put on a short piece of at least number 7 or 8 wire, maybe even some number 9. Cover that ballyhoo with a small, dark-colored bullet head style lure, and you should be able to get those wahoo into the boat as well. And then my last species is triple tail. We've got tons of weeds that are starting to be pushed into our Central East region this week, and the triple tail has started showing up again. They're floating on those weeds. So you'll find these big weed patches in the near coastal waters and all the way offshore. You'll look for those fish hiding under the weeds. A live shrimp rigged on a 2-outside circle hook is a fantastic way to, get those fish to bite. Just free line it, no weight. Let the shrimp swim around under the flotsam. Don't sink it too quickly. And I'll tell you what, most of our triple tail right now are running a little underslot. They're still fun to catch, but there's a lot of fish in that 18 to 22, even 24-inch range. Got a little one here that Don caught with me the other day out from under one of those floating debris.
All right, Bud, thank you so much. We're going to go and take a look at the Rodan Marine System hotspots from Central East region. He said speckled trout on the flats from Grant to Vero Beach use live croakers, pilchards, or mullet for those gators up to 28 inches. And then offshore, a mixed bag of wahoo, dolphin, blackfin tunas on the rips and temperature breaks associated with the western edge of the Gulf Stream. Troll skirted ballyhoo near those features, as he says.
As he says. All right, the Sea Sucker Panhandle region captain has his work cut out for him next. But first, Dave has our friend from the Coast Guard at the CCA Workbench helping him out for Academy Sports and Outdoors, Rigs and Techniques. Dave.
Hey.
Hi, what's going on?
We're going to be talking a little bit about the trout and, trying to catch them on the top and on the bottom and in the middle. Everywhere you can catch them.
And the trout. Woo!
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Sirius XM Marine. Weather, fish mapping, entertainment. Penn. Let the battle begin. Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Shallow Sport. Legendary performance. And Daiquiri Deck. Food, drinks, friends.
Well, we're here at the CCA Workbench, and it's time for the Academy Sports and Outdoors Rigs and Techniques. Dave.
It's hard for me not to applaud for myself.
You do well.
I like me.
I like you too.
Anyway, we're talking about speckled trout. He's one of the big three of the inshore species, in my opinion, the snook and the red and the trout. They're the, tarpon are a little offshore, in my opinion. But we keep those guys in there. It's a good eating fish. Readily available to a lot of sportsmen, from either guys standing on the shore or out in a boat. So a lot of people get a chance to catch them, and they usually eat pretty good when you find them.
Right.
You can catch a bunch of little ones a lot of times. Although I caution you, if you want to catch a big one, if you're catching a lot of little ones, you should probably move on down the line, because they don't hang out together. Big trout and little trout stay away from each other, because big trout will eat a little trout, and they know that. Right. Before I start talking about all these baits, you'd be surprised how big a bait that a little 16-inch trout can eat. He can eat probably an 8-inch mullet. I mean, yes. he can eat a great big bait. I've seen little tiny trout just gag themselves on huge baits. So they're not shy about attacking something way bigger than they are. They're an ambush feeder. They like to live on, flats and places where there's some tidal movement, usually with some grass on it. In the wintertime, they move from the flats and go into the deeper waters and try to stay away from the cold because they don't like the cold that much.
Right.
So I like to catch them on topwater plugs. We got a bunch of topwater plugs out here.
They like noise, right, Dave?
They do. The bait that they feed on flickers on the surface. Mullets jump and splash, so they're always attuned to surface disturbances. So whenever we can use any kind of bait on the surface that makes a lot of noise and pops and whizzes and whatever, it's going to attract their attention, and hopefully we'll get a bite out of them. I prefer to use, instead of the baits like those that continue on, I like to use a walking style lure like the Jaywalker, because I can stop it, and it'll keep doing its thing,
right.
And they like to eat it when it's stopped.
Yeah.
Pop, 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 stop, and just let it sit there. And as soon as you twitch it again, usually is when they'll bang it when it makes that next little twitch.
Right.
So you got to try to not pull it away from them. When you
right.
see that splash on the surface, if the plug doesn't go flying way in the air, you just wait until it comes tight, and then you start reeling, and you'll hook a lot more than if you try to set the hook on a topwater bite. You want him to come up and eat it and go down, and you just want to reel tight on him because it gets very exciting, and you want to pull when you see him,
right.
but that's the bad thing to do.
So a lot of trout are caught under a popping cork, Dave.
Correct. And the reason being is a popping cork allows you to keep whatever you're offering, a live shrimp or a jig, right in the perfect spot because it's floating under the jig. It's between the surface and between the grass that the fish is hiding in, so it's right in that perfect area. Plus, you've got a nice pop, and then that little thing comes down, which is what he's used to seeing. Something pops on the surface and then comes down, and he piles on it. And we've got several different ones here.
We got noise-making corks
Yeah.
like this Bass Assassin.
Right, and you can fish with those with any kind of shrimp imitation or a jig with a paddle tail on it, or some nice fish bites. I like to use fish bites when I'm using a popping cork because when they're going to come up and just pile onto that fish bites and not let go of it.
Yeah.
They
Well,
really
because
like that
it's got the right scent,
Right. That's I just rigged up like if you were gonna not use a cork and you were fishing on the bottom, let's say you were in a nice sandy area,
right.
or it was in the wintertime and you're fishing on the bottom of a canal. You can and you don't have any jigs. If you don't want to use a jig head, I use these little bullet weights.
Right.
I'll even put a peg up here or something to keep it, make sure that it stays on the bottom. And again, you can use the fish bites just like that as well, just like a regular bait without a jig head.
Right.
Also, a gold spoon is always going to catch it. The biggest trout I've ever caught was on a gold spoon. It was actually weeded up so bad that it looked like something ginormous on the top of the water, and a huge trout came up and ate the weeds and the spoon. But always try to, use a gold spoon if you're coming into a place and you don't know what's there. It's a good search bait, and you can search all around with a gold spoon and try to find them in there.
You like paddle tails versus straight tails, Dave?
I always like paddle tails because I like to keep it moving. I'm not one of those guys who likes to pop and jig. I like to just keep going because I'm trying to cover ground usually.
Right.
And the paddle tail works best when the paddle's moving. So I like a paddle tail. I like to use that because it's faster. And I like curly tails.
Curly tails.
For the same reason. Because that, if I'm moving it all the time, I'm not doing a whole lot of hopping and skipping. I just like to run it just like a spoon, really.
It just always seems when we talk
It's very
about
fast, isn't it?
all of our inshore species, we just always seem to run out of time.
Yeah, we didn't
Because
get to the war pig.
you do such a great job, Brittany, Brie.
Yes, you guys do. Both of you over there at the
Thank you
CCA
so
workbench. The Sea Sucker Panhandle region has no shortage of big old trout, so let's see how big with Captain Pat Deneen. What's up, Pat?
Hey, Brie, I'll tell you what, with numerous bays, bayous, intercoastal waterways, speckled trout, maybe the most popular inshore species to fish for in the Panhandle. And we can catch them year-round. In the wintertime, they're going to be up in the creeks, the rivers, and the heads of the bayous. And then during the warmer months, they push onto the grass flats in the bays. And currently, we're finding them in the bayou mouths and on the grass. Additionally, the biggest and the heaviest trout of the year are usually caught this time of year, basically April through the end of May. And they as these big females begin to spawn. They're big, fat, heavy female trout. Live shrimp are the go-to trout bait, but as pilchards and menhaden become more numerous, they become the preferred bait. You want to fish them free-lined under a float in 3 to 8 feet of water over grass or along the roll downs, and either on the edges of the grass or in the bayou mouth. Lure fishermen, they prefer soft plastic baits on a jig head or rigged weedless on a worm hook. Topwater baits like the Berkeley Jaywalker that Dave just mentioned, and lipped or unlipped midwater twitch baits. Best bite for trout is usually going to be early in the morning or late in the afternoon, but you can also do real well fishing dock lights at night with live bait, soft plastic, and flies. And right now, the live bait or the nighttime bite has been pretty good. There's a photo of a real fine speckled trout caught on the grass flats in eastern Okeechobee Bay by live baiting with menhaden, which is hard to beat, live menhadens and live pilchards. And then staying inshore, the redfish are another extremely popular inshore fish in the Panhandle, and fishing for them is also good right now. In St. Joe Bay, anglers are doing really well with gold spoons on the shallow grass areas. They're great search lures. Definitely look for patchy bottom areas where you got sand and grass mixed. Target the small sand patches or the edges of the bigger sand patches. And that's true for the remainder of the Panhandle from Panama City to Pensacola. These shallow water reds are mainly slot or under slot size fish. And if you're looking for the bigger reds, Destin Bridge and its neighboring channels have been producing really well on live baits. Hathaway Bridge in Pensacola Bay is also very reliable, with some big ones being caught in the surf right now as well. There's a photo of Captain Nick Kirby of Scallywag Charters and his boys in Okeechobee Bay with a big redfish his oldest son sight cast to and caught this past week. Captain Nick's raising them boys up right, so that's some fun stuff for them.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. Moving offshore, there's been some really nice catches of dolphin being caught recently. There's a good amount, not crazy amounts, but a good amount of sargassum pushing up in the northern Gulf, and with it are the pelagic game fishes. Some of the grass is pushed up in lines. The more defined line or the bigger patches are definitely going to be the better place to target. And then you also have a good chance of wahoos and billfish in those same areas. So network with friends or use satellite imagery to target your search areas. You want to troll a combination of ballyhoos and smaller plastics, but have some spinning rods rigged and ready with jigs or live bait hooks. Oftentimes you'll find dolphin holding on some structure and they lose interest in the troll. You troll by them, you can still see them hanging out underneath the structure, and they won't take the troll bait, so you can get them on the spinning rods. Sizes range from chickens up to little small fellows, to fish up to 30 pounds or so. And there's a photo sent in by Captain Ronnie Respondek out of Pensacola.
Wow.
With a really pretty dolphin they caught this past week trolling the spur area. I mean, check out the colors on that guy. He's all lit up and fresh.
Yeah, he is.
That's awesome photo.
Yeah, that's
Love
good stuff, man. I love me some dolphins. But finally, offshore, the amberjacks. If your friends just want to catch some hard fighting fish for fun, hit the metal wrecks in 80 to 150 feet of water. They're out of season right now for harvest, but they seem to be very abundant. On the deeper sites, you're going to generally have to send a bait or a jig down to them, but on the shallower sites, they will often come up to the surface where you can catch them on poppers and chuggers. So if you got some live pilchards and chumming up to the top, this will definitely help bring them up. A live blue runner is a choice bait, but also thread fins and even croakers make great baits. And then another technique is vertical jigs drop below the fish and then rapidly fish towards the surface. Once you hook up, especially on those shallower wrecks, ease off the wreck while you're fighting the fish. Most of those small wrecks have some resident Jewfish that they like to eat hooked amberjacks. They really know how to pull. Most folks are done after a couple of them. The sizes vary, but even the shallower wrecks have some really good quality fish on them right now.
All right, Pat Tar, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region. And guys, don't forget, if you go to shopbwo.com and use the code FIFFER, you'll be able to get a 5% discount. All right, so let's check it out. He says that inshore, the pompano fishing remains strong along the shores of Cape San Blas and Mexico Beach. fish the washouts and the gullies using sand fleas and fish bites for bait. And then offshore, he said the vermilion snappers on cut bait, baby herrings, and some small pilchers on a 2-hook or 3-hook chicken rig, and then fish the natural bottom in 100 to 150 feet of water there, Brie.
There's some big fish coming out of the Panhandle region.
Yeah,
Beautiful
man.
photos. All right, well, catching a trout this summer could win you a custom GNU LT10 with 15 HP Yamaha and Road King trailer, power pole, Power Tech propeller, Bull Bay rod, and Florida Fishing Products reel, Hydro Glow light, or Starbright package. CCA Florida Star presented by Yamaha isn't just about catching tagged fish. If you catch any fish, you have an opportunity to win amazing prizes. So go to the Star website to learn how you could win your share of $500,000 in prizes at ccaflstar.com. All right, we're sinking our teeth into the Front Runner Boats Northeast and Casa Vieja Southwest regions when we come back. Plus, we're talking with our special friend from Front Runner Boats, so make sure you keep practicing those casts, and we'll be right back. Keep out special.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Berkeley, your fish, our science, Bahio Sunglasses, blue light blocking, radically clear lenses, Sea Sucker, easy on, easy off, incredibly strong, Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure, Kubota, together we do more, Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA. And Yanmar ASV, a leader in compact equipment.
And guys, as you can see, joining me now is Philip Mann, the owner of Front Runner Boats, and our new sponsor for the Northeast region and our center console category. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate
Phillip, we really appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys. So why don't you tell me a little bit about Front Runner Boats?
Yeah, we're just a good old American story. Two best friends from Northeast Florida that had a passion for boating and fishing. Started with rehabbing boats, turned into a boat dealership for a little while, and then decided that, we wanted to try to take our hand at manufacturing it. So we dove in head first, and we're 48 months into it now, 6 models and 200 employees, so we're in it.
So let's talk about those models. What size do you guys have to offer?
So we have a 26, a 33, a 36, 39, 47 monohulls, and then we just debuted our first 37 catamaran.
So, one of the things when we first started talking and negotiating stuff, the one thing that I really respected about your designs were that you have some extremely large gas tanks for what would be considered some medium-sized center console boats. What did you have in mind when you did that?
When we started designing the boat, it really just started off as like a sketch on a napkin, handed it to the naval architect, and told him what features the boat had to have in it. But we were we benefited from the fact that we knew what was coming in the marketplace. We knew how the industry had changed. The boats become so expensive, they have to do so many more things. So like things like seakeepers and large water systems, and now we're putting Starlink on these boats, and just the boat had to be able to do so many things. So when we talked to the naval architect, it's like, hey man, we need to design our boats around what is here now and what is for the foreseeable future.
Well, you guys certainly did a great job. Certainly the feature that I love on the 36, as well as almost all your boats, is being able to fill the gas tanks from both sides.
Yeah.
That makes the job a lot easier.
It's kind of corny, but we always say it. It's fishing boats built by fishermen.
Yeah, there's nothing corny about that.
Yeah.
So if we want to know more about Front Runner Boats, where do we go?
You can go to our website, frontrunnerboats.com, and then we have good social media outlets, Instagram, Facebook, and such.
Well, again, we're proud to be your partner
Proud
in
to
the
be part of it.
center console boats, and I appreciate everything that you guys are doing for us, and looking forward to working with
Us
you.
as well.
Yes,
Thank you.
we are
All
glad
right,
to
Brie.
have you on board, Philip, that's for sure.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, if trout skis are your plan, then you better make Captain Tommy D your man in the Front Runner Boats Northeast region. Tommy, the trout skis, like your fave.
The trout skis, that's right, Brie. Hey, before I go into it, welcome Front Runner Boats. Man, those guys make some super high quality offshore fishing boats. We're really happy to have those guys on board. But yeah, the trout. This is a great time of year for trout here in the Northeast region. I'm pumped we're talking about them. My clients and I seem to catch some of our biggest trout from April through May. And there's a bunch of different ways to catch trout, from tossing lures and flies to using live shrimp under a cork. And that's just one of the great things about trout, is that they're a fish that all ages and skill levels can really enjoy catching. Now, I got some great trout reports this week from throughout the region. My buddy Eddie Cabler told me he's catching some nice trout in Jacksonville, up there in the St. Johns River, near the Dames Point Bridge, early in the morning on that incoming tide. Now he's targeting rocks, docks, any kind of riprap, that is, any kind of eddy, those kind of things. He's tossing a topwater plug early in the morning, then a subsurface plug, or even a fish bites paddle tail when that sun gets a little bit higher in the sky. Now we've also been on a few big trout in the creeks around the State Road 312 bridge, especially early in the morning on that first of the incoming tide like we have this weekend. Now I'm gonna have my clients free line a large live shrimp, rig that on a 2-aught, little tiny fine wire circle hook. Now just let that shrimp drift through with the incoming tide, and those deeper bends of the creeks, you're gonna find some trout, some big ones too. Now my biggest springtime trout, they really seem to come from topwater and subsurface plugs, which a big bait catches a big fish. And then a saltwater assassin paddle tail is going to be a great way to go for the schooled up trout at the creek mouths and the drop-offs along the ICW. And I've got a picture here. This is Carol Perry with a nice gator trout ski that she caught with me recently up in Palm Valley. Now staying inshore, guys, it's all about the top water for the redfish right now. The water's going to be coming in quick at first light this weekend. Those redfish are going to be pushing up to the grass lines and to the backs of the creeks. They're basically going to be following that bait. Now, if you find the bait, that's where you're going to want to toss that topwater plug. The Berkeley Jaywalker and the Cane Walker have really been working great for those redfish. I feel like my hookup ratio has also gone up quite a bit. I love those hooks that you're holding there, Rick. You have to be careful. Those things are so sharp. Now, we've also been doing the bait and switch. Yeah, you got to be careful, man. Yeah. Now, we've also been doing the bait and switch, which is an old redfish tour trick, which I'm sure you've done, Rick.
Yes, sir.
One angler is going to toss that topwater plug, and the other one will toss the saltwater assassin paddle tail just in case the red misses that topwater. You can toss the paddle tail right in there and then get the bite. Now, I've also gone a little bit old school this week, and once the sun and the tide has come up a bit, I've got my clients tossing a good old gold spoon right along and into the grass once that tide gets high about mid-morning. Now, the old gold spoon still works, and it tends to go through that grass really easy because it's got that nice weed guard on it. Now, we've also been doing well with live or cut mullet along the grass on the higher tide stage as well. Again, look for the bait. That bait is the key, and fish right around them. And I've got a picture that I took here. This is the end result of one of my clients doing that old bait and switch where he tossed the paddle tail right in behind the missed topwater plug, and redfish couldn't stand it, had to eat it.
I got picture envy, Tommy. I do. I have picture envy. Good job. Let's talk about grouper, Bubba.
That makes you want to go fish early in the morning, doesn't it? Now, moving offshore, guys, the grouper bite continues for the anglers that have been giving it a go this week. Captain Adam Jeffrey's been putting up some big numbers of groupers the last couple of weeks, really. And he's had some trips over the last couple of weeks here that he's limited out with some really big gag groupers. Now, live baits, pinfish, grunts, cigar minnows, those are going to be the go-to. But some of the bigger grouper that I've heard about this week from some captains and some friends have been coming off whole frozen Boston mackerels. So if you're giving it a go this weekend, be sure to check that little ledge. There may just be one of those big black belly groupers hanging out. Also offshore, guys, the mahi bite, it's pretty much in full swing right now. You can start looking at about 150 feet, but quite a few fish seem to be a little bit deeper right now. Look for flying fish and weed lines, as well as any other floating debris. Average size of those mahi is about 10 pounds, but there's been some huge fish caught over the last couple of weeks. And speaking of huge fish, I've got one last picture here. Oh. My buddy Justin Lee sent me this picture of this bull dolphin that he caught east of St. Augustine. That thing is huge, man.
It is huge.
So
all
pretty.
capitals
Woo.
On that one, dude.
Gosh.
You know, Tommy, thank you each week. Great pictures as always, and we appreciate it. But it is time for the Strike Zone Hotspot, so we'll see you later. All right, bud. He says inshore redfish and trout in the St. John's near the Dames Point Bridge. On the early morning incoming tide, target docks, rocks, riprap with topwaters and subsurface plugs. And then offshore, the mahi bite is going strong from 150 feet and out. Look for the weed lines and flyers.
Those big dolphins just just get me.
Yeah,
Oh, gosh.
that's your fish.
It's my thing. It's
That's
really
your
my thing.
thing.
All right, the Casamigos House Southwest
many
region.
things,
No,
guys.
that's it. Is always showing off some trout bellies, but Captain Ron Houston has a few select tips for you to be successful. Go for it, Ronnie.
Well, like always, it's a pleasure being here. You know, trout, it can be caught throughout the whole region, and they can be caught all year round. Now, a couple key things to look for, especially late fall through winter, which I think is arguably the best time to fish for them. You know, on your higher tides, you want to get put on those flats, anywhere from 18 inches to 3 foot of water. But on your lower tides, fish the potholes, troughs, and edges, and then off the edges out to about 6 feet of water. The areas I mentioned, one thing that's going to play a pivotal role in finding these trout is grass. Get in those areas of grass, you're going to find the trout. But another simple way to catch these fish would be simply drifting with the wind and fan casting. And once you locate them, simple. Put down the power poles, fan cast, and that bite starts to slow down, then slowly drift again until you locate them and put them poles down again. Now, trout can be caught on so many different baits, but I just want to keep it simple. Don't want to complicate it. But a few things I think you're going to need is simply chumming live pilchards, live shrimp. Nothing beats a live pinfish, especially for a bigger trout. And when it comes to soft plastic, keep it simple. Artificial shrimp and paddle tails. And when it comes to hard baits, Topwater walks the dog lures. Like Tommy was mentioning, that cane walker, Tommy, put some time in with that thing. That 110 in pilcher seems to be working great down by me. The best way to really find them if you're beginning is simply fan casting noise-making corks like the Bass Assassin Oval Quick Cork with either a live shrimp or soft plastics is all you're really going to need. And I got a picture of a nice trout recently caught, and it's almost summertime down here in the Florida Everglades. Staying on the inshore side of the snook. Now, the bite to the south from Marco down to the Everglades is improving weekly, as it should be, because it's beginning to be that right time of year, and it will get better. Now, on your higher tides, your outer Gulf Islands, you want to hit the points, areas of Oyster Bottom, slow down. But on your lower tides, you want to concentrate on the edges, and as that water falls out, good moving on the water on the edges seem to work well, especially on those points. Now, I'm going to warn you, on them slacker tides, that bite seems to slow down on the slower, on the lower tides. But simple again, cut bait, knock a rig on the bottom, chumming live pilchard. Now, when it comes to live pinfish, I like putting those on a knocker rig because that pinfish likes to roam, and I like keeping it in a certain area. Gold spoons, soft plastic Bass Assassin die dappers, and Snowstorm or Houdini. Also the Berkeley Jaywalkers and Hijackers. Specific colors have been the bone or the pilchard. Also the Juke 85 in pilchard and mullet colored. And here's a couple nice fish that have just been recently caught in the last few days. Before I go offshore, I'd like to welcome Front Runner Boats becoming a new sponsor of the show. And what really impresses me about that, and I'm looking forward to go out and ride in one of these, Rick, Randy Royal up to the north in Destin has been talking about this boat. I've been looking at them. Really impressive. Looking to see what they can really do. Tobias, Indian Key to Wiggins Pass on your moderate weather days. Plenty of opportunity using a couple of different methods. Running and gunning or anchoring up on most noted wrecks, artificial reefs, and towers. You can control the motor in anchor mode or simply drifting in and around the structure. Look for fish on top to be sight casted. They're also on their moderate days. Or simply dropping down live baits in a variety of swim baits. If you don't have any of those, simple bright colored bucktails, artificial eels, or bright colored chugging lures, which will draw them to you or up off the bottom. Simply pitch a live bait at them. Here's a cobia that was recently caught here in the last few days down to the south. Last species is going to be the triple tails. You can start as close as 3 miles. Weather's going to be nice this weekend, or you can venture out to about 20 miles. From 10,000 islands all along the coast of Fort Myers Beach. Wrecks, artificial reefs, head pins, floating debris, and grab pots. Now, depending upon the weather, you can do this a couple different ways. Wherever you put in at, from north to south, or vice versa. Now, there'll be times where you're running both directions, but you're only going to really see these fish in one direction on your way in or back. Numbers of fish right now are small, but with opportunity for keeper-sized fish. Live baits are simple, like pilchards, shrimp, finger mullet. Can't find any live baits. Simple cut chunks will work because of the scent. Paddle tails and bright-colored bucktails will also work as well. And here's a couple nice triple tail that have also been caught here in the last week with the nice weather. Get out this weekend, offshore, inshore. Weather's going to be great. Get out and catch you some fish.
All right, Ronnie, thank you so much. Great pictures this week. As always, we're here are the Serenity Bait Company hotspots. Captain Ron says that inshore, redfish throughout Bull Bay, Turtle Bay, Pine Island Sound. Look for the schools roaming over the lower water on the higher tide. fish with the bushes with cut bait and live bait on the higher tide. And then offshore, red groupers from Marco to Fort Myers Beach, fish hard bottom, 95 to 125 feet of water using cut and live bait on the bottom. And don't forget, guys, for all those needs, go to serenitybaitcompany.com to get your bait.
Nice triple tail.
Wow.
I'm impressed. I'm actually really impressed this show. The fish are like,
yeah, man.
they're getting there, getting there.
Good weather brings big fish.
Yes! All right, anglers, get ready for the Key West Marlin Tournament, July 19th through the 22nd. This fun-filled sport fishing event is limited to the first 75 boats and coincides with the 43rd Annual Hemingway Days celebration in Key West. For more information and to get registered, go to keywestmarlin.com. The Yanmar ASB Keys region is taking over our weekend next, but first Dave is taking over the CCA workbench. Dave, what are we doing over there?
Well, we're going to be going through some new products, and we're also going to be talking some boating safety because it's boating safety weeks, and
Perfect.
the Coast Guard's in the house.
Oh, he's coming. We're getting to the Coast Guard. Woo! Can't wait.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Penn, let the battle begin. Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, best lures, period. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
Well, we're here at the CCA workbench, and it's time to troll the edge with Taco
Yes, sir.
Marine. Let's talk about some new products.
Well, we're going to start with Taco Marine. Right off the bat, we got the Olympic rod holder cluster here.
The Olympic.
You know, yeah, exactly. You could light the torch there. It's made for, holding 5 rods with 1 rod holder. You can put 5 rods in here, and this goes into a regular rod holder. Just you can transport them. You can wash them off at the end of the day. You can fish out of them if you want to. These are all flared, 9 3/4 inch, so they'll fit, big butts, 50 wides, probably up to 50 wides.
Right.
Welded anodized aluminum, and they're all polished really nice. And again, it fits into the standard 1 5 1/8 rod holder there.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they have a hole drilled here, Dave, so you can attach your safety lanyard.
Correct.
Just in case
Correct.
you hit a bump.
Comes with a nice little mesh bag too.
Right.
You can take it off the boat and rinse it off and put it in here and keep
Right.
it
so
it
you
nice.
don't get it all scratched
Comes
up.
with a 3-year warranty as well.
And where do we go for that warranty?
TacoMarine.com.
Okay.
Next, we got for Mirror Lure. This is the CI Pro Dog Mullet. We were just talking about trout fishing, and this thing is a trout killer, just like most stuff from Mirror Lure is.
Look at how that
It looks like a mullet, doesn't it? This is the most realistic color pattern that Mirror Lure's ever made, they say. It's a perfect topwater bait for trout. It walks the dog really nice. It's got those big 3D eyeballs on there. As you can see, it's got really nice hooks and hardware on there, welded ring hardware, super strong. Bass like them too.
Yes,
4 inches and 3/4 ounce. Go to Shop Mirror Lure and buy all the Mirror Lures you can.
Okay.
I love that stuff. I
Yes, you
use
do.
it all. Next, we got some fish bites here. This is the 5-inch Dirty Boxer Curly Tail. It comes in 8 different colors. Again, we're talking about trout. A big trout will eat one of these easily. There's 6 baits come in a package. Very durable. When you go to try to put one of these things on a hook, you'll find out. You got it, and they're slippery, so you got to get a good grip on them to put them on the hook. But they won't come off, and they put out a whole ton of scent, and draws the bite to your hook. So.
You did good.
You can get one.
Where do we
nice
go?
steady paddle action for those. Fishbites.com. Like I was saying before, I love the curly tail because it's a nice steady movement, and they will key in on it.
You know what also I like about these guys is that you can put them on a bucktail jig when you're dropping down for groupers. You may be bouncing the bottom in a channel with a bucktail, for snook.
Right, anything.
And it gives it a little added extra.
Anything that eat a curly tail will hang on extra tight to a fish bite.
All right, so Dave, as you know, it is Safe Boating Week, and so we thought we'd bring in our expert from the Coast Guard.
As usual, the Coast Guard sneaking
Admiral
up on me.
Jeff Barnes. He's our admiral, as you know, and So Jeff, why don't we talk a little bit about Safe Boating Week?
Right, so starting on the 20th through the 26th, we have National Safe Boating Week. And obviously, the reason why we do this every year is to remind people as they're coming out of the summer to start thinking about, as they go in the water, to go over their safety plans, go over their things on their vessels, and also maybe refresh themselves on some of their knowledge, local knowledge and navigational knowledge and things like that. So the stats just came out. They're looking better this year. Had less incidents, a decrease in fatalities. But the biggest thing is the reason that there are fatalities is because someone drowned because they didn't have a life jacket on. So always wear your life jacket, number one. The second thing is that I like to put out there is get a vessel safety exam. And you can go to cgaux.org and you can look up a place to get a vessel safety check locally to your area. You can either schedule someone to come to you, or you can go to a dock and have it done. And one of the things we look for is that we look for like fire extinguishers with the dates. There's a new thing like your fire extinguisher has a
so this fire extinguisher now has the
stamp
date on the bottom.
Right.
So does that mean it's good till 2023?
Nope, that means it's from 10 years from there. It's good as long as the meter and everything are good and you're within 10 years, you're good to go.
All right.
Also, these are kind of getting more popular. These are the nighttime flares. But in order to be able to use this, you got to have a daytime flag. So a lot of people don't know that this is the international flag for distress. So if you see someone waving this in the air, that means that they're in trouble. So we're always looking for these kind of things for a vessel safety check. And I always say, hey, listen, if you do this with us by the dock, it doesn't cost you anything, it's free. And if you pass, you get a nice cool sticker. Now, if you don't pass, we give you a
ticket.
No, we give you a shopping list to go and fix that. But if you do get caught in the water, it is going to cost you a bit more money. So
that's when you get the ticket.
And also on that same website, you can schedule your Boat America class. Take a class if you need some more knowledge about how to boat, how to navigate through the channels and things like that. Because we've all seen the videos these days.
It's always a good idea. We
Yeah.
have to have a license to catch a fish, but not to drive a boat. It boggles my mind.
Exactly.
So being that you guys know me personally, I could have used this about 15 months ago.
Yes,
Yeah.
you could.
That would have been nice.
Especially during the daytime.
That would have been nice.
All right,
Thanks for having me.
Bree, where are we going next, Bree?
Boys, you all hear that? Safety is key. Yes? Yes, ma'am. All right, the Yanmar ASB Keys region has it all, including trout, dolphin, tarpon, and permit. So get ready to catch them with Sarah Stanzik. What's up, Sarah?
Hey everyone from the Yanmar ASB Keys region. We can find trout all throughout Florida Bay, and one of the most productive ways to catch them is by using those popping corks and the artificial baits such as fish bites, like one of the fish bite shrimp on a jig head. So you can target trout in those bays where you see the muds, we call them, which is the off-color water where the fish are often feeding. They kick up the bottom and it's like dusty, muddy looking water. So you want to look for those areas of discoloration and drift and just cast once you start catching a few, and then you can almost stake up or and sit on them that way. They're fun for anglers of any age, and they make good table fare too.
Yeah, they do. All right, what else you got for us inshore this week in the Florida Keys region?
We are heavy into our tarpon season. Like May is great, and we're right in the middle of it. So the tarpon bite's been steady. They're great fish to catch. They put up a good fight. They pull really hard. They're awesome. They do jumps. Like they're just one of the best sport fish out there. As for catching them, they'll eat a lot of different types of flies as well as live and dead bait. So they can just appeal to a wide variety of anglers too, which is unique for one fish to be able to do all of that. But for bait fishing, we'll use the live crab or mullet, and we kind of fish near the bridges or in the channels, somewhere anywhere where there's good water flow. Here's a cool photo, not one that we normally see. I was flying my drone one day, and I looked down on my drone and I saw this like pack of tarpon traveling. It was really cool looking though.
Neat.
Is there anything you can't do? You're droning, you're lobstering, you're
She's
stone
momming.
crabbing,
I haven't crashed my drone yet, at least.
Well,
one day maybe.
You got to try to fly it
Hopefully
upside down. I'm sure that'll help. All right, let's
Yeah,
go
that'll
offshore. Are you there, Sarah?
Yep, I'm here.
Go ahead, let's go offshore.
Offshore, we have mahi starting to show up, dolphin better and better every day as we approach our, peak summer months coming up. they'll eat anything from a live pilchard to a dead piece of squid and artificials. They can just be moody. So I set all of those options, and it's best that you have every single one of those as an option on your boat. So you want to have live bait, you want to have cut bait, and you can, for fun, have artificials ready too. Live bait is definitely the best idea to have some of that ready. You want to look for birds diving down on bait and on weed lines and debris offshore. Some kind of like structure, or not structure, but something on the surface. They're usually around some kind of floating, debris or something. But here's a photo of a nice dock full of mahi caught by our charter boat, Dauntless.
Nice. All right, one more to go. What do you have this week?
Oh, another one of my personal favorites. We're still catching these nice permit that are spawning off the keys here, off the reefs and the wrecks. And, I mean, they're one of my favorite fish to catch. We use a live crab as the best bait to target them. Pin 5500 with a 10-foot leader and 30-pound fluorocarbon and with a half-ounce jig head. Put the little jig head through the crab cheek and kind of cast them out. That's a good setup for them. So we look for the schools of permit rising to the surface off the wreck to spawn, and we cast at them that way. They pull really hard. They're in the jack family, so they kick their tails and they shake their heads. They're exciting to catch. They'll make you sweat too. The big ones, those big reef permit are tough. Some of them they hurt you, but it's fun to catch them. So here's a permit our friend Steven, he was on his bachelor party. And Nick took all the guys fishing, and they were like, "We need a mate." So I jumped on the boat. I was the only girl, but that's okay because we caught I think 3 permit that day. But that guy Steven, it was his bachelor party.
All right,
so that was.
You brought him luck.
I got a 1-minute question for you. So mating for Nick Stanzik, I want to know what that's like.
At a bachelor party.
we were catching permit on the wrecks that day. And a week before that, I had gone out on my boat without Nick. We go most of the time together, but he was out of town. I went out to the Gulf and caught 50 permit without Nick being there.
Yeah.
And we were on that wreck that day, and he was telling me how to cast at the permit at one point. I looked up at him and I said, "Nick, I caught 50 permit 10 days ago."
I love the fact that you get to put him in this place.
So in other words, what's it like mating for Sarah?
We're a good team. We work together well most of the time, but every now and then.
All right, well, I hope that Brie and I can come down and go fishing with you and Nick and possibly hand crank a swordfish from the deeps. That's on my bucket list.
You want to hand crank one? All right.
Rick does.
Do it.
All right, I love hand cranking swordfish, so let's plan that soon, okay?
Let's do it. I like taking turns hand cranking, so if we have a team of people, everyone gets to take a turn.
I love you, Sarah.
Sounds awesome, Sarah. Thank you so much. We're going to go and take a look at the shallow sport boats hotspot from the Florida Keys. Our captain, Sarah, says that inshore, the tarpon bite has been steady around Flamingo and in the backcountry. Use live mullet or crabs and look for the good water flow. On the outgoing has been usually the best. And then offshore, the yellowtail snapper bite has been good. Anchor in 60 to 90 feet of water. Use lots of chum, oats, and sand off the back of the boat. And don't forget, be patient if you don't get bites right away.
Patience is key.
Always.
Always. All right, we've got a bunch of Keys tournaments coming up, so let's take a look. First up is the Key West Fishing Tournament, which continues through July 31st with more than 40 species eligible for citations and other awards. Next is the Lower Keys Chamber of Commerce Dolphin Tournament in Little Torch Key. Get registered now to be amongst the first 50 boats who are eligible to win $20,000 for the largest dolphin over 50 pounds. Then we have the Skipper's Dolphin Tournament that features over $50,000 in cash prizes, including a $20,000 prize for the first place team with the highest combined weight of 3 mahi-mahi. And last is the Don Hawley Invitational Tarpon Fly Tournament, where top anglers and their guides fly fish for tarpon for 5 days in Isla Mirada to benefit the Guides Trust Foundation. For more information on Keys tournaments, visit flakeys.com. And I like how Sarah called them moody mahi. They certainly can be moody. All right, we're casting into the Startron Central West and Discover Crystal River Northwest regions coming up, so keep those lines tight. But before we go, see that QR code on your screen? Make sure you scan it now to get exclusive access to our live audience. Sign up throughout the season and all of our social media channels. Plus, we'll be uploading new videos on our YouTube page, Captain McMurphy. You won't want to miss it, so scan away and subscribe. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Startron. Start, run, and store with Startron. Berkeley, your fish, our science. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Tin Cup, Mountain Whiskey, the Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. Diamond Fishing Products. Our reputation is on the line.
Well, Rick, we all know this captain is just a trout fisherman from Sarasota, so this is his week to shine in the Star Tron Central West region. Let's hear it, Paige.
You know that's right.
Yeah, it is.
And you know, the thing about that speckled trout is everybody that started out saltwater fishing, they probably started out trout fishing, if not, sheephead or off the seawall. But when you get out on that grass flat, that trout was the first character that I know that I went after, and I bet Dave Farrell too. And in our region, the Star Tron Central West region, thanks to some really good management from CCA and FWC, trout fishing's been pretty good over the past 4 or 5 years since that red tide we had in 2018. And it always starts out on the grass flat. That's the one species that even when it gets cold, he may go up in the canals and the boat basins and the creeks overnight, but that next day he'll be back out on those flats because that's where his food that he likes to eat lives, out on them grass flats. And it can be shrimp, it can be crabs, it can be pilchards, pinfish, grunts, and they all work good under a cork. So that's the pretty cool thing about the trout. Most of the bait that you use to catch him, he's out there already eating. Now, if it's lures you like throwing, it's tough to beat a topwater bait. Rick and I filmed the Sportsman Adventures not too long ago up in Sarasota Bay, and we threw those Berkeley jaywalkers in the 100 and the 120, and we had some great luck on some really nice trout and some snook. And that's probably the most fun, is throwing topwater plugs. But soft plastics work really good too. You can, just use them on a jig head, or you can put them under a cork and throw the poppy down out there and just give her a couple pops and goes down and you got a trout. Now, the grass flats that we work in that 2 to 6 foot range, I like the mixed bottom, not solid grass, but more grass than sand. Now, in the wintertime, on the negative low tides, they'll fall into the sand holes. Some of the flats that are really well known for it, of course, in Sarasota, we have the Long Bar, but up to the north, off Joe's Island, as well as off Rattlesnake Key, and then down south, off of outside of Bull and Turtle Bay, are really good for trout fishing. I've got a couple photos tonight. First one is one of our sponsors, Sea Sucker Chuck Casagrande, with his cousin Pete Ferrara, with a nice trout we caught not too long ago.
There you go.
And then the second one is a happy young angler that was out with one of our local guides, Captain Simon of Bayshore Charters out of Bradenton. Now, staying inshore, Rick, your favorite fish, you're just a tarpon fisherman from Homestead, Florida. And the tarpon bite has really improved. A lot of fish rolled in from offshore, and guys are catching them down there in Boca Grande Pass, Gasparilla Pass. They're catching them at the Venice jetties at night, and we're doing real good up along the beaches from, say, Venice all the way up to St. Pete. What we like to do is find them in the morning laid up, throw a free-lined or cork crab at them, and then once the day gets bright and sunny, I like throwing either thread fins or pinfish. And it's been really good. And these hill tides that we have the rest of this week on that afternoon outgoing tide, there'll be some really nice fish caught on the back sides of the sandbars. Got a really nice picture of one of Billy Alstrom's clients got in the water with his tarpon. And that's Billy the Kid Alstrom from Suncoast Fishing Charters. Rolling offshore, mangrove snapper. Really consistent mangrove bite with this full moon coming up. Well, new moon right now. But as we approach this next moon in the beginning of June, it's going to be some really good mang fishing. And the fish have moved in as close to 60, 70 feet of water. My good friend Scott Stuttelmeyer's been averaging his limit, no problem, with shrimp on a jig head. But then Captain Jason Stock's been doing real good with live pilchards, chumming them up to the surface and then throwing free lines at them. And the picture I have tonight is a bucket of snapper that Jason Stock caught on a recent trip. And then my last species is the cobia, and he's been in as close as the 1 to 3 mile artificial reefs, but he's also out there on the wrecks and reefs out in deep water. And speaking of Jason Stock, he rolled up on Rick 4 or 5 whale sharks, and they plucked, I think, 2 or 3 big cobias off the whale sharks in 35 miles off Anna Maria. And the picture I have tonight is with one of the cobias with the whale shark in the background.
My gosh, that's amazing.
That's a National Geographic episode right there, bud.
Once in a lifetime.
But that's what Jason calls it. Jason has his own lingo. He calls it Nat Geo moment.
Nat Geo moment. Hashtag
Sounds
that.
like he's had lunch with you a few times, Captain Page. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the daiquiri deck hotspots from the Startron Central West region. Captain Page says that inshore, lots of tarpon up and down all the beaches from Boca Grande north to Egmont. Those live crabs and threadfins are your best bet. And then if you want to go offshore, dudes, guess what? Red snappers is still very consistent in 110 feet of water over the small areas and hard bottoms off of Venice north to Anna Maria. Live pinfish or frozen sardines are getting the job done, right, dude?
Dudes and dudettes.
That's it.
The Discover Crystal River Northwest region is stacked full with trout. So let's get Captain Jeff Hageman on the line and tell us where we can't catch them.
That's a dude.
My region was made for trout fishing. The whole region is covered with turtle grass, and we have tons of trout. One of the most popular fish, inshore fishing we have is trout fishing. They can be caught on fly, plug, soft plastic, topwater baits. As far as live baits go, shrimp is hard to beat under a cork or sardines. Small pinfish and small grass grunts are very effective. Trout in my region can be caught anywhere from 1 to 12 feet of water, depending on the water temperature. Trout are ambush feeders, and Paige was just talking about this now, that broken bottom where sand meets grass, more grass and sand, and also where grass changes. You get turtle grass and eelgrass mixed together. It's a little different in depth, and those trout will hang out on that too. In the wintertime, they tend to group up in larger numbers, and we get those bigger 2 to 5 pound trout are common, and fish up to 8 pounds are not uncommon. In the summer months, the fish head to a little bit deeper water, so get out there a little bit deeper, slow your retrieve down if you're throwing artificials, and work it a little deeper, and you'll find those trout out there. Right now, I've got a photo of a Port St. Joe trout turned in from Captain Lee Thomas.
Nice.
Port St.
All
Joe.
right, tell us about the poon fishing, dude.
We've got lots of tarpon fishing going on right now. It's in full swing. Lots of fish are moving through the entire region. Beaches and passes and flats and bridges from St. Pete's Crystal River. Live bait, plug, fly, crabs, pinfish, and threadfins are good live bait choices. Swim baits are good for artificials. As far as fly goes, purple and black game changers have been working well, and I did good with them this last week. I caught some fish over the grass on that black one, and over the sand you want to throw a tan one. Stealthy approach is always good. Get on your trolling motor. It'll improve your bite if you get up there stealthy. Spot lock that Rodan upwind of them. Make some long casts as far as you can. Keep those fish from knowing you're there. And I got a photo here of a tarpon we caught this last week up on the flats, daisy chaining.
Nice. Beautiful.
Got in the water with that one.
All right, tell us what's going on offshore.
Captain Rob Davenport of Big Nasty Charters reports the triggerfish bite's been really good. He's catching them in anywhere from 140 to 180 feet of water. Small pieces of squid with a 2 to 3/0 circle hook, 60-pound fluorocarbon leader, and 6-ounce lead. And I got a beautiful triggerfish, and they are so good to eat. A little hard to clean, but very good to eat from Captain Rob.
Nice.
What else you got for us, bub?
Captain Rob also says in that same area, he's fishing scamp right now in that 140 to 180. He's also looking for ledges on that hard bottom, and that's where he's finding most of the scamp. 60-pound fluorocarbon leader is working best. 8-ounce lead, 6/0 circle hook is working well. And the tip, he said, is tipping that threadfin herring with a little bit of squid, and he's catching those nice scamps. And I got a photo here of a beautiful scamp. One of my favorite groupers to eat.
Nice. How you like to cook those groupers there, Hag?
I like them on the grill. I like them blackened. I like them fried. There's not many ways I don't like to eat them.
Any way I can get them.
I love that. All right, thank you so much, Jeff. Good luck tomorrow, tarpon fishing. I know that's what you're doing every day. We're gonna go and take a look at the Ozella Key Marina hotspots. He says inshore, the snook bite has been heating up. Look for the fish around the good current flow and ambush points. Use live pilchers for bait. And then offshore, mangrove snappers over the rock piles in 50 to 75 feet of water. Listen, there's a young man named Ben that is your grandson.
Grandson.
We're gonna make sure that we say a big hello
Yes,
to Mr.
we wish
Ben.
you were here,
We wish you were
Ben.
here. Maybe next time. How about that?
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
Hey, but for the kids show. But he lives
He's
way
in
up
school.
north.
He
in school.
doesn't get out of school till almost the end of June.
Oh.
Central New York.
Well, next. Oh, in New York.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
we
he
wish you
can
were here,
watch on
Ben.
YouTube.
He will.
All
He will
right.
be thrilled.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
you.
Stay right here with me.
Thank
Where
you.
are we going next, Brie?
Well, speaking of kids, one of our favorite shows is sneaking up on us, and that is The Kids Show, June 19th. Our studio will be full of young anglers and action-packed with interactive stations that consist of casting, rigging live bait, and knot tying, along with games, prizes, and, of course, lots and lots of snacks. To sign up, head to our website, FloridaInsiderFishingReport.com, or scan that QR code on your screen. It's always so much fun. We love it. It's chaos, but it's fun chaos.
That's right.
All right. Floridians, we have our sights set on the Dynapack Southeast region coming right up, so make sure you stay hooked right here on the Florida Insider.
Fishing report.
Man, it's like we've been here 10 years together.
We have it.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Island Lures. Tournament Tackle. The IGFA. Every fish, every water, every angler since 1939. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Real Legends. Available at bellsflorida.com. Dynapack. Your partner on the road. And Taco Marine. Troll the edge.
Today's power pole tip of the week is becoming more stealth with your poles. Now guys, think about this. We have 3 speeds on our power poles, and the one thing that we need to understand is that we can manipulate those speeds. We can go fast, medium, or stealth mode. Now whenever I'm making a move from an oyster bar over to a point, and I know I'm only gonna pick up the poles a few inches at a time, I simply click it into the stealth mode so that I can keep the noise level down to a very, very quiet approach. Now, you guys that love to bass fish and you're fishing fish that are on beds, that approach is the same thing. Make sure that you go into the stealth mode so that you can sneak up on those beds, put your poles down, and the bass doesn't know you're there. Keep in mind that by simply manipulating the speeds through your multifunction switch or through the app using the key fob, this will make a great approach, and that's today's power pole tip of the week.
You're so stealthy, Rick. Per usual.
You're right. I'm just sneaking up on myself sometimes, Brie.
Yep. That's
Figure out how to
correct.
do that.
Yeah. All right. The Dynapack Southeast region is full of offshore fun that Dave and I got to experience this past week, and Captain Jimbo Thomas is on the line to tell us what we'll be reeling in over the weekend. Go for it, Jimbo.
You got it, Bree, Rick, Dave, and everybody in the studio there. Well, trout fishing in the Southeast region is decent at both the north and south ends. Not much in the middle, though. Now, generally, the best trout fishing in the region can be found on the grass flats on the west side of Biscayne Bay in the Gables by the Sea area, or on the east side of Biscayne Bay up around Nixon's Beach, and then both on the east and west sides of North Biscayne Bay from Venetian Causeway north to Oliver Inlet. Then if you're fishing in the north end of the region, look for trout on the east side of Lake Worth Lagoon throughout the ICW from Southern Boulevard Bridge south to Hypoluxo Island. Now, trout like to hang around areas with good moving water and heavy grass and potholes. Anywhere from 3 to 8 feet of water is a good place to look for them. And also look for any signs of bait fish activity. Now, both live and artificial baits work well on trout. Small light pilchards, herring, or pinfish, you want to fish them under a popping cork. or you can use quarter-ounce Bass Assassin jig heads with a 4-inch gulp plastic tail. Also surface and shallow running twitch baits. Those are all great trout baits. Now, the average size fish are in the 15 to 18-inch range, but fish up to 25 inches, which is roughly a 4 to 5 pounder, are not uncommon. Now, I got a photo here. This is Craig Fountain and Bobby Brown with one of many nice trout that they caught on live pilchards. Now, staying inshore, with this nice weather that we've had the last few days, the permit and bonefish fishing has been pretty decent. Now, you want to look for the bonefish on the oceanside flats of Sands and Elliott Keys. Look for hard bottom flats and 2.5 to 3 feet of water, and you want to fish on the top of the outgoing tide. Crab pattern flies and small silver dollar-sized blue crabs, and also live shrimp have been working, along with brown or pink skimmer jigs. Look for activity on the flats like stingrays, sharks, and even turtles, which are all great signs of fish foraging in that area. So lively bottom is what you're looking for. The permit have also been on the oceanside flats from Ragged Key to Caesars Creek over hard bottom flats, and you want to look for good moving water and use live crabs and crab pattern flies. Now, moving offshore, best offshore fishing has been along the edge of the Gulf Stream, where we've been finding blackfin tunas in depths anywhere from 120 to 250 feet of water. Best baits have been live herrings, pilchards, sardines, also goggle eyes. You want to fish them under the kite or flatline those. You want to use 30 to 40 pound fluoro leaders and 4.0 to 6.0 circle hooks. Now, we've been fishing a lot of green water lately, but we've been catching those tunas in the green water. But if you can find some blue water in North Current, that's where they're going to bite even better for the most part. Now, most of these blackfins have been in the 25 to 30 pound range, but the sharks have been eating a lot of them, so you got to get them in fast, otherwise the sharks are going to get them. Now, they've been biting throughout the day, first thing in the morning, and then late in the afternoon from about 3 o'clock until sunset. That's when they're going to bite the best. And if you can find some pilchards to live chum with, that'll definitely get them fired up. Now, I got another photo here. This is Chris Bernarde, who had a big snook in last week's show, and this is the biggest blackfin tuna that I've heard of in a good while, a 36-pounder that he caught off government cut.
Nice.
That one's full grown for sure.
For sure.
Now, along with the tunas in the same depths and areas, we've been finding quite a few sailfish. Again, we're looking for blue water and North Current, but we've also been finding them in the green water as well. Fishing the live herrings, pilchards, and goggle eyes under the kite. Yeah, it's basically the same rig that we've been using for the tunas, light leaders, and circle hooks. And just like those tunas, best bite has been late in the afternoon. And if you can get those live chummers, it'll also help get the sailfish going.
Jimbo, thank you for taking our crew on Monday. You know what? We appreciate all the hard work that you and Rick do.
Yes.
And I know it's a thankless job, but what was the funnest part of the day for you?
You know, I have fun every day I'm on the water. It was a beautiful day with a lot of fun people. So we had a blast and we caught some nice fish. So, you know, the whole package is great.
All right, but
I agree.
I was waiting for the phone call for the tuna roll YouTube video that we've got to do. So please, kindly, don't forget about me, please.
And me.
They were very good, I'll let you know.
You know, our relationship is built on the food that you feed me, Jim.
Okay, then we should be solid.
We are solid. Thank you so much, bud. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the southeast region. He says inshore, get on the flats early and cast live crabs or shrimp to tailing bonefish and permit. And then offshore, look for the blackfin tuna, sailfish, kingfish, fishing live baits along the edge of the Gulf Stream.
He ain't lying on that either.
Nope.
All right, well, let's show our support for Florida's fisheries with a Conserve Florida Fisheries license plate just down here. For $25, proceeds for the redfish tag support protecting and enhancing Florida's saltwater marine resources, habitat restoration, water quality, and coastal environmental education. Get this beautiful edition at your local DMV or visit redfishtag.com.
So you know what we're doing in the Murphy house?
What you doing?
Because my birthday, as you know, is June
4th, yes.
So we're converting every one of our license plates to the new CCA license plate.
That's a great Murphy thing to do.
How about that?
How about that? Mine's
That's
July 4th. I'm going to do the same.
I'm gonna
I
need to
kicked
take
the chair.
out a loan.
All right, all around the Sunshine State in 90 minutes, and we did it. And now that you know all about the trout, it's time to tell you what we're focusing on next week. But you'll just have to wait a tad bit longer. We'll be right back. Well, next week we're talking paddle fishing for any species out of something with a paddle. It's gonna be fun, so make sure you tune in. But you know, we were just talking about our trip with,
Not the
no.
paddle.
We were talking about our trip with Jimbo. His hotspot was sailfish, kingfish, and tuna. Well, that's exactly what we caught aboard the Thomas Flyer. Here's
Yeah.
a few photos. Davey reeled in that awesome tuna and the biggest rainbow runner we've ever seen.
There's
it was
my
a fun
tuna
day.
fish.
There it is.
Show me with the rainbow
There
runner.
it is.
Nice.
Well, you know, we'll get there.
Where's my catfish?
Brie got
Thank
new
you all
bathing
for
suit. I'm
tuning
sorry
in.
I missed it.
Thank you, our live studio audience, for joining us. We'll see you all next week. What a show. Cheers.